Welcome to the Top Movies channel. Kindly subscribe for more interesting top videos. Top 5 Most Brutal Punchers in Boxing History. Number 5, David Tua. David Tua never won a world title, but the Samoan from New Zealand put multiple world champions to sleep. If this was a list of the 10 greatest chins of all time, he would probably rank at least as high. If only Tua could have developed the ability to cut off the ring on a world-class fighter, he would have fought his way into the Hall of Fame. As it stands, he remains one of the most popular fighters of the past 20 years. Tua's first-round stoppages of world champions John Ruiz and Michael Moorer both show up routinely on YouTube highlight reels. He stopped future world champion, Hasim Rahman, by round 10 TKO when trailing badly on the cards. His decision loss to Ike Ibebuchi set a record for punches thrown in a heavyweight bout, and it is often speculated that it contributed to a more rapid decline in Ibebuchi's mental condition. Tua does not appear to have suffered any long-term effects. Number 4, Sonny Liston. The 1960s were supposed to be the Sonny Liston era in boxing history. The brash upstart from Louisville, the blown-up light heavyweight, Cassius Clay, was supposed to be just one more speed bump on the highway. That's pretty much exactly what every boxing fan in America thought heading into their 1964 fight. Even most of the die-hard fans, who know what's what. Even most of the writers. Even the guys who set up the Vegas odds. The reason for that is simple. Liston was among the most devastating punchers the sport has ever seen. Liston stood only a half-inch above 6 feet tall, but he had the 84-inch reach of a 7-footer. He wielded his oversized limbs like an angry bear slugging with telephone poles. Liston entered his fight with Ali having stopped 11 of his last 12 and coming off from consecutive round 1 knockout of Floyd Patterson. In June 1970, 6 months before his death, and years passed his prime, Liston dropped the super-durable Chuck Wenner with a body shot in the 5th before stopping him on cuts in 9. Number 3, Lennox Lewis. Like Vladimir Klitschko, Lennox Lewis' legacy suffers somewhat from the fact that he was stunningly KO'd by 2 relatively mediocre opponents, Hasim Rahman and Oliver McCall. But unlike Klitschko, Lewis came back to avenge himself against both men, stopping Rahman in 4 and McCall in 5 in rematches. Another difference between Lewis and Klitschko is that I don't think Lewis ever got overcautious in letting his hands go, as his subsequent performances against Rahman and McCall demonstrate. He remained committed to ending fights early. At 6'5" and with an 84 reach, Lewis excelled at beating up opponents from a distance and boxing behind his jab. But he was a capable brawler, as he proved when he withstood Vitaly Klitschko's assault to stop the challenger on cuts after 6. On the list of fights that never happened, that I wish had, Lennox Lewis vs Riddick Bowe, circa 1993, rates high. At the time, Bowe was fresh off taking the unified title from Evander Holyfield. But he tossed the WBC version of the belt into a trash can, rather than face Lewis, who was coming off from a 2-round annihilation of Donovan Ruddock. Number 2, George Foreman. It's not that difficult to imagine a parallel universe where George Foreman ranks as the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, rather than Muhammad Ali. If Foreman could have stayed mentally strong enough to regroup and keep winning the fights that would have forced Ali to give him a rematch, I believe he would have won the second time. From there, it's not hard to imagine him continuing to reign into the mid-1980s, after turning back Larry Holmes in what would have been among the great heavyweight title clashes of all time. And behind any such wild, speculative fiction rests the solid reality of Foreman's brutal right hand. Aside from Ali, and Jimmy Young, Foreman crushed the best fighters from the best era in heavyweight history. He stunned much of the boxing world in January 1973, when he smashed world champion, Joe Frazier, in a mere 2 rounds, knocking him down 6 times along the way. Frazier did little better in a 1976 rematch, going down in 5. In March 1974, Foreman stopped Ken Norton in 2. But to me, perhaps, Foreman's most amazing knockout was the one he delivered as a 44-year-old man, against world champion Michael Moorer in 1994. Trailing hopelessly on the cards, Big George caught up to the younger man in round 10. The effortless form of that punch is as surprising as the result. It barely looks like Foreman has exerted any energy when he turns over on the punch and sends Moorer tumbling to the canvas, completely separated from his wits. And it proved for all time that the punch is indeed the last thing to go on a great champion. And our number one on our list is Ernie Shavers. By the early 1980s, Ernie Shavers' punching power was so legendary that he was able to parlay it into a part-time gig in professional wrestling, serving as a guest referee and ringside enforcer. Not only were 68 of Shavers' 74 victories by stoppage, but also, 33 of them came in the first 2 rounds. Shavers' mystique is enhanced from having competed in the division's golden age. Like Twa, certain flaws in his game prevented him from reaching championship status, yet his power made him a threat to nearly anybody who got in the ring with him. Both Muhammad Ali and Ron Lyle have repeatedly credited Shavers like the hardest puncher they ever faced, even ahead of Foreman. Like many hard-punching heavyweights from the past, he retains a definite cult appeal among fans to this day. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like.